Good morning, good morning. This is Pixie. So, what do we need to get through? I'm just going off to my weekly yoga, and I'm just going to be. It's just a meditation session, really. Most people think yoga is all about physical movements. It's about the unity of the body and the mind, and so on. And it's one of the branches of yoga. So there's mindfulness and there's heartfulness. That's what this yoga is. And yeah, I find it inner peace. It's nice to find a way to shut down all the background chatter in your head. Often stuff in your head, it will mislead you and drive you in different directions, which brings me on to my other stuff I'm starting to do. So I'm starting to study more into Hinduism. What are you doing? Just recalibrate the road, that guy. Yeah, so just doing stuff around some Hinduism. I've been looking at things to do with Shiva and Kali, and I was looking at the charts, and the charts are quite strange though. But you can adapt your own things, like Kali, Ra, Kali, Ma, Kali, Ma. So you go, and you can do it with your mouth shut. You don't have to go, go. That's more powerful internally. But the other kind of chant, so that's kind of like using energy, and then you might focus on that and draw that consciousness in. Now, kind of the Hinduism I'm looking at is like the esoteric, and there's interesting things that are popping up, like they're in dimensions and a dimension of energy and understanding, and it kind of gets you thinking about stuff, and it makes a lot of sense in some ways what it might mean. Like basically Kali was set forth to fight a demon, and if it was cut, his blood would bring forth more demons, so every time he got injured, it was more of it was produced. So, and the rage of Kali, so what Kali did is decapitated this being and then drunk its blood, and I think what it represents is Kali is nature, Mother Nature, and it's showing the reality of it. Really, is that there's a sort of there's a side of it that's tough, and there's a side of it that's warm and embracing, and also nature. So for the demon, he was basically like the lava and the fire, and that was spreading, and so nature's sort of controlled him basically, and put that control over him from Kali, and so that's more the spiritual aspects of it. And so Shiva falls under Ra, it's a male entity. And but what's sense in female energy, and that must be Kali. So it's very interesting, and it's like I say, it's popped in my psyche, but I think it's the esoteric side I've got to look at. It's the spiritual growth and understanding it, and I think sometimes the best to get into esoterics is to look at the pictures. Look at pictures where they've painted things. What do they mean? What does it mean? One overrules the other. So yeah, it's a bit like Kali when it's one of her rages, and it was only when Shiva laid on the ground and she trod on Shiva that realised it going too far. And I think that's basically she was based on his principles. That's what it's coming. So when she went to that point, there was no point in going any further, because then you'd go beyond the intentions, I guess, of the creator. So it's the independent side of it, and how the consciousness is kind of in the universe is slightly fragmented, and it works for and against, but the against brings about different type of strengthening, I guess. It brings about change, because things don't change unless there is some conflict. And there's some great stuff about the teachings of these like the goddesses and so on, and about what it's saying about nature itself and the human as it exists. It's a bit like Kali's a tough mother, but she does care for her children. However, she can go off the rails a bit and go one way. So it's the balance of unity between herself, her inner forces, and it's quite a beautiful thing, really. So it's understanding it from a higher spiritual thing. On the outside, you might think, "Oh, that looks like it's a demonic thing or something." But that would just be very that would be very naive. I should put myself in lower gear. Keep going up too high. It's because of what it represents more, and the information there potentially, and that there's an inner workings of Hinduism. I guess within ourselves we've got the different God aspects of ourselves, and so that's like the syncretism of it unifying is into one context. So it's I think definitely there's a lot more there, and it's a very old religion. So if they're going about fire and stuff, they're talking about volcanic times. Maybe there was deities and beings that would have come from the fire realms. It could be that there was a thin layer between them, and actually entities did exist. Step out of the lava, or it's somewhere jinn territory can be as well. These sort of fire-driven locations, because they're more homely. I don't know. It's just they feel probably more connected to the energy there, and it sort of heals them, I guess. Which could be quite true if you're made for a certain dimension. If you go beyond that dimension, then you sort of compromise yourself to energy levels and so on. So yeah, and I'm feeling really good about myself. I'm probably going to visit a Hindu temple, and I'm just going to drop an email about that and just say that. I mean, I don't want to be chanting exactly what they're chanting or anything. I'll just be absorbing the atmosphere and absorbing some culture. And for the Shiva worship, I think the only thing they got is they do a mantra so many times a day. That's it. That's their thing. So it's like prayer or something. But I think for myself it'd just be inner workings and meditation, and it just add another layer, another dimension of myself spiritually. And it'd be interesting to see what some of the gurus and things say. There's some really interesting things out there, and there's what's interesting though is that from an outside perspective I bring a esoteric interest there, but sometimes you see from people well endorsed within the culture, there's kind of like they haven't looked below the surface. That's because sometimes the ignorance of parents rubs off on people, just seeing Jesus Christ as a man and not seeing any esoteric value. I mean, it's like saying Santa, and people say, "Oh no, Santa's not real." But Santa represents something else, otherwise you wouldn't practice the belief of Santa. It's not the idea to deceive your children. It's the belief of a mystical character brings forth goodwill, but it represents something else, that you can believe in the spirit of man and humanity and stuff, and possibly accountability. The idea that what you do, you sow is what you can reap to a certain degree. But for some reason, parents have just splashed loads of money on kids. But it's a good time to use that to bring about positive stuff. If you all sort of looked at each other's how it's gone so far in their life and where they want to go and stuff, use that as a kind of way to unify spiritually. So it's like family yoga. So yeah, definitely. So I feel great myself. Still doing my fasting on and off. I'll probably just start doing sort of chunks of days. I think it's good because if I want to bring around any positive change, you've got to be willing to put in the energy and effort. And I definitely think it's the way forward. I can't guarantee what the outcome of the future will be, but at least I've stepped into the light with the right attitude, the right positive attitude, and other things. I mean, on this channel I share my secrets, but I probably won't share them so much outside. I'm saying, you know, if you lose weight and look better fast. Some people just think it's such a weird concept. They stuff their face with food and they work really hard down the gym, and they get very little change because what they believe is based on an industry and not based on your own inner science. So, you know, what's good for you, what works for you. To be honest, the amount of money you can save if everyone starts fasting, like people that are larger build, like myself, and might be carrying a few extra pounds, they may actually realise how much money they could save. It'd just be amazing, and then all these other industries would suffer. They'd have to start producing food with even more levels of fat and stuff to keep people in this bubble. Because that's what they serve. They serve to be the cogs in the machine. But when the cog wants to turn independently, the machine fears the loss of that movement. So it's one of them strange things. There we go. Anyway, this is Peter sign off, and speak to you soon.